And now look at what's going on with NFT markets and also with cryptocurrency in general. Like, that shit. Young, question mark? Yeah, Fwiz is super fucking young to be, like, so high level. He was super young to be so high level at YouTube. He had a lot of great ideas, too. And, you know. Fraud is real, libtard. Oh, give it to me. 2 PA Republican staffers have been fired after the PHI Inquirer story revealed that the ballots were being diverted into a possible ballot harvesting operation to a P.O. box without voters' knowledge and being filled out by party officials. Oh my God, the GOP was doing it. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Who would have thought? New pro-choice caucus has sent out messaging materials to the House Dems on road draft. One of the recommendations is don't use choice. I always think about this when I see...
It was here that 400 years ago, we first witnessed the extraordinary effects that...
This is what you think of? This is the best video you could find to describe the fucking tulip mania, the first economic bubble. This was the best video you could find on this? Like, you could not have found a more boring fucking video, I think, on the internet than... Like, I like the concept. I'm fine to watch it. Fucking realize... that if you have multiple slurp juices, you can actually turn your singular ape into 3 different apes. I'm sick and tired of the fact that so many refuse to realize that multiple different slurp juices can and will create multiple different apes, okay? Fuck! You can use multiple juices on the same ape! Fuck! The most important slurp juice is the top of the hour ad break avoiding slurp juice, which is called a subscription. That's right. For $5 or for free, you can subscribe. The prophet forbade multiple juices. Oh, God, I don't want to watch this. How NFTs are invading the art world. The crypto crash is hilarious because the bros went from have fun staying poor to it's not funny to laugh at people's misery. Yeah. Listen. If you no longer want to see those ads, you don't need multiple slurp juices. You need one. And that slurp juice is a subscription. There's different variations of that subscription slurp juice. Like, for example, one of the variations is... I just closed this tab. I don't know what was on here. Oh, fucking Ezra Miller getting arrested again. The other one is a free one in the form of Twitch Prime. I'm just fucking around. Okay, whatever. Wild Wills, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. All right, I am all over the place. I'm in Abrick now. What will happen to Gary V's restaurant? Who knows, dude? Who fucking knows? Oh no. The world finding out that you could use 3 slurp juices on a single ape and create 3 new apes. Total collapse of crypto. It fucking happened, dude. It did happen. Sometimes there are truths that you are not supposed to reveal. And when you end up revealing those truths, all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. Adam ruins everything. The true orange is a tulip mania.
The success of the Dutch economy meant that the middle class had cash to drop on luxury items, and tulips were one of their favorites.
Why in the world were flowers a luxury item?
Well, tulips were new to the Netherlands and hard to get, which made them a status symbol.
As you can see, this man is very rich and powerful.
We learned from our mistakes in the past, and we were like, oh, we should never do that again. And that future trading is now illegal and heavily regulated, and also you can't do it. What Adam Conover fails to reckon with is that back in the 1630s, the Dutch didn't have access to slurp juice. If they gave those tulips some slurp juice, who knows what could have happened? Oh, that's awesome.
Say, friend, do you like money? Well, what if I told you there was a way to exchange those boring green presidential napkins for sexy computer cash that's easier to lose, far more volatile?
Amazing video regarding tulips.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
Cold Fusion Video. Since 2013, this channel has featured the recently, Apple has passed the $1 trillion valuation mark, but since a How Big Is Apple video already exists, I had the idea to take things a little further. I asked myself the question, what was the biggest company of all time? In this video, we'll quickly touch on the 8 most valuable companies in history and then spend some time on number 1 because it's a fascinating story.
We'll get back to that other in a second.
So large
I'll finish
that they literally geographically shaped the world.
I'll finish the other one in a second, please.
We know today. Alright, let's get into it. At number 8, we have Microsoft in 1999. The company was valued at $0.9 trillion at the height of the dot-com bubble. Number 7 is Apple in 2018. This is due to the persistent popularity of the iPhone, which makes up about 70% of the company's profits. Though some do speculate that this $1 trillion stock figure is more complicated due to low interest rates, making it viable for the company to buy back its own stock, pushing up the stock price further. At number 6, we have Standard Oil. In 1900, this company was worth $1 trillion. Standard Oil was soon broken up by the American government into, well, pretty much every major American oil company. At number 5, we have PetroChina. In 2007, they were valued at $1.4 trillion, and this was right at the peak of oil prices just before the GFC. The 4th most valuable company of all time is Saudi Aramco, valued at $4.1 trillion at its peak in 2010. From here on, we have to step back in time hundreds of years to reach the real heavyweights. At number 3 and 2 respectively are the South Sea Company, worth $4.3 trillion, and the Mississippi Company, worth $6.5 trillion, both in 1720. Of course, these numbers are adjusted for inflation. The reason for these astronomical valuations is quite interesting. In 1720, a bubble formed around speculation of trade between North and South America. The two companies mentioned promised that they could capitalize on trade between the American continents, and their stock rose accordingly. The speculators on these companies would coin the term millionaire. In reality, mass trade between the Americas didn't really end up happening, and the bubble soon popped. Okay, so on to number 1. Valued at a ridiculous $7.9 trillion in 1637 is the Dutch East India Company. The story of the Dutch East India Company is absolutely fascinating. The story starts in the Netherlands in a time called the Golden Century, a period of Dutch history between 1600 and 1700, where Amsterdam was one of the richest cities in the world due to its strong international trade. Trade was essentially how all countries made their money. In 1600, the Dutch government was worried about England becoming dominant in trade. To combat this threat, they sponsored the creation of the Dutch East India Company in 1602 and allowed the firm to become a monopoly in Asian trade. The company quickly became one of the dominant players in the trade of spices between Europe and Indonesia. Spices might not seem like much today, but back then, spices were scarce and extremely valuable. They were used in medicine, to preserve cooked food, and to add flavor to meat. Spices actually...
Ironic. If you know the cuisines of either of these countries, or just European cuisine in general, I will never get over that reality, but that's completely irrelevant to the conversation. Let's
improve
continue.
The quality of life. Dutch East India Company is one of the most important companies in history, and one of the reasons for this is that it was the very first company to go public on the world's first stock exchange. From here, it continued to grow until it had 70,000 employees at its peak. In the 1600s, that was more than 0.01% of the world's population working for this one company. The firm ran their own shipyards, built a network of hundreds of bases, and had anything from offices to warehouse and heavy work stations. In order to keep their ports and continue trade, Dutch East India Company developed their own army to protect the land that they gained. And this is where things start getting beyond any company that we can imagine today. As the company grew, their foreign colonies gained more land and possessed a sense of governmental powers. The Dutch East India Company had the power to wage war, negotiate treaties, mint its own coins, and even establish new colonies.
Which is, of course, very different than what we have today. It's not. It's just that the American government basically operates at the behest of the corporations that don't have to do that. So corporations have basically outsourced this violence to the American government.
The company was even used to fight against the Spanish Empire in the early 1600s. And remember, this was a publicly traded company doing all of this. It doesn't stop there though. There were also expansive sailing expeditions that resulted in the discovery of new land. As it turns out, the Dutch East India Company actually helped shape the geographical knowledge of the modern world. They would stay operational for 2 centuries and had effectively transformed itself from a corporate entity into a state and then an empire. Okay, so now we know that the company started by trading spice and ended up a tyrannical empire, but what was its most profitable business? The answer isn't what you would expect. The peak of their wealth came from flowers, tulips to be exact, and the story of how this happened has gone down in infamy. It tells us a deep archetype story. Although technologies in the world may advance, human nature remains the same. Tulips were first introduced to Europe from Turkey and reached Amsterdam in 1554. The plants were immediately perceived as exotic goods, and their popularity began to rise. Having tulips in your garden became an important status symbol. In addition to this, the thing about tulips is they take 7 to 12 months to flower and only bloom for about a week. This rareness, and the fact that they were a status symbol and highly valued, made the tulip product a prime candidate for the first financial bubble in history, the tulip bubble. You see, at the time, the Dutch were pioneers of modern finance. They devised a way to set up a market where you could trade tulips all year round even if they weren't in bloom. The prices were set by traders that signed tulip contracts based on future prices. This was the very first futures derivative market, the same kind that we use to trade stocks with today.
So good.
Over time, the tulip market became more complicated and flowers were priced according to their rarity. As with all derivative markets, things tend to go out of control sometimes.
For the record, this is why I say, like, it's all built upon the same bullshit. The foundations are literally the same. It's just NFTs and cryptocurrency doesn't even have a legitimizing force backing it. Okay?
The prices of the tulips are pushed higher and higher by speculators who plan to turn around and sell them for a profit. This is the very same thing that happens in all modern financial bubbles, from people flipping houses expecting the next guy to pay for it, to stock and bond traders doing the same thing. As I said, human nature stays the same. Many merchants sold all of their belongings to purchase a few tulip bulbs for the purpose of selling them at a higher profit than they could ever imagine in their lifetimes. This was the 1630s, and the average person could expect to live fewer than 40 years and be lucky to make any money at all. Meanwhile, some of the tulip traders were earning the equivalents of $62,000 a month. It seemed like the tulips were a quick way to paradise, and everyone wanted in. During the build-up and height of tulip mania, the Dutch East India Company incorporated the tulip trade into their operations.
Oh. I'm sure this guy's great, but, like, the little mention of human nature in that situation is completely capitalist dogma. What do I mean by that? The very notion that, like, human history starts and basically ends with us, but starts in, like, I don't know, over the last, like, 200, 300 years, the 400, 500 years is fucking silly. We have been alive for far longer than that, with zero human nature that revolves around, like, the with the with the profit motive, and with the understanding of, like, trying to constantly maximize value. It's just that's bullshit. That's not real. So whenever people say human nature, they're basically they've already completely tapped into the capitalist dogma and are just, like, repeating it back to you. And it makes sense. It makes sense because everything in your life is saying that. I mean, this would be primitive communism, an era far longer than what we are currently looking at now. Which most people that believe in the capitalist dogma completely avoid.
and the stock price began to rocket upwards. By this stage, even England and France were trading tulips on the London Stock Exchange. The acceleration of price continued, and soon there was a price explosion of 20-fold just in a single month. To give you an idea, at the peak, a single tulip bulb was worth 10 times more than a craftsman's annual wage. By this point, the Dutch East India's value had risen to that infamous massive $7.9 trillion mark. To highlight how huge this was just one more time, if you put Apple, Microsoft, and Google together, Dutch East India Company was worth 3 times that combined value. So you might be wondering, what happened next? Like all bubbles, the tulip bubble popped in late 1636. So what caused the crash? It turns out that some of the buyers in North Holland refused to show up to routine tulip bulb auctions. It signaled to the market that people just weren't going to pay any higher for the plants. This event caused the tulip price to fall a little. Investors then got cold feet and decided to sell, so the price fell more. More people saw the price falling and decided to sell as well, and the cycle continued. Soon, the market violently imploded. Within just a few weeks, tulip bulbs were only worth 1/100th of their former price. This resulted in a full-blown panic throughout Holland and an economic crash that lasted years. The Dutch government would later make changes to the financial system to make sure that this never happened again. So what about the Dutch East India Company? What happened to them? Well, the company stayed very powerful until the mid-1700s, but after bad management and a war between the English and the Dutch, the company was dissolved and overtaken by the government in 1799, and the colonies of the company became Dutch colonies. So what does this tell us? The tulip bubble speaks of human nature and greed. Like many things in life, it's important to look at the underlying value of something and not just what everyone else thinks it's worth. The Dutch East India Company's size is completely unparalleled today. They were a complete government within themselves. On one hand, I guess it warns about the close ties between industry and government, but on the other hand, they did discover new lands, shaping modern geography, and also were the pioneering company to trade on the stock market, forever shaping finance.
I think the funniest part about this is saying that this is human nature and acting like all humans participated in this, when in fact, the overwhelming majority, and this has always been the same throughout history, were not participating in fucking futures trading on tulips. They were literally dying of syphilis on the fucking boat. Or they were on the receiving end being enslaved, okay? Like, that was what the overwhelming majority of people were doing. But of course, the people that the history books write about are the ones who are doing the fucking futures trading. So you have this like weird understanding that like, oh yeah, no, literally, like everyone was doing it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's normal to feel this way, by the way. I'm just saying that, like, it's normal to see it like this because that's just what everything is taught you. That's how things are taught. So you're telling me that Hannibal didn't use 3 slurp juices? No. Turkish soil and plants felled the largest corporation in human history. Another W, 1637, second best year of my life? No, 1453 best year. Also, just because it's human nature doesn't mean we can't overcome it and destroy the system that incentivizes it. That's all we do, overcome nature every time. Yes. But I am of the mindset that the current organization of the economy greatly dictates everything we feel about ourselves and everything we know. It's very much how our culture is formed. And that is precisely the reason why people have this false notion that it's human nature to be greedy, selfish, and constantly work at the behest of profit. When in fact, collective actions is also just as important, if not more important, in achieving all of the impressive feats that we have achieved as human beings. That is, of course, overcoming nature itself. So, you know, when we are already doing incredible things and completely fucking avoiding human nature when we're building skyscrapers, Why can't we? Why do we act like we have to succumb to our human nature when it comes to when it comes down to just capitalism? Well, because the people that benefit from that are telling you that's the appropriate way, and that's the justification for it. Okay. Oh shit. Hey YouTube, how do I stop these ads from running on my channel? Human beings. Abortion, ultimate form of child abuse. No, it's just murder, first of all. It's not the ultimate form of child abuse, it's murder. What the fuck? Capitalism is much crueler than human nature? Yes. Just told my wife Hassan would cuss within 10 seconds of opening Twitch and our boy did not disappoint. Yes, I have a potty mouth, okay? It's human nature. Should we watch the fucking abortion video now or what? God, the House Democrats video is gonna kill me. Or not the video. Extra history with non-fungible tulip is what? Do the AdSense thing too for your YouTube channel? Wait, what? I want fucking anti-abortion ads. I want anti-abortion ads to run. New poll. Madison Cawthorn's approval has hit a key bump in the road. We find Republican voters nationwide disapprove of Cawthorn by 41-point margin. 69% of voters agree he should resign from Congress. Oh, get the fuck out of here, bro. Our boy. We need to defend our boy. Okay, sure, but I'd be psychotic to say that it isn't human nature to get as many slurp juices as possible. No, I will never say that. Okay, if there's one thing that is like probably the most, if there's one component of human nature that's probably the most important and most significant, it's that you can use 3 slurp juices on a single ape and create 3 new apes.